Flashback 2 days ago. He spotted her there, sitting at a table all by herself, ears drooped, eyes bored, her round spectacles perched on the bridge of her nose as her head was tilted down, and her dress, beautiful, but it does not match her current demeanor, although a dress as gorgeous as that fits her perfectly. He's seen her before in political ads and official meetings. There she wore everyday work clothes. Here she wears a cheongsam dress made of silk colored an oriental red. It made her look slim, which says a lot since her body held curves. Healthy curves though. A decorative floral design was embroidered into the silk fabric, strategically placed right on the side of her chest. A water lily, he could only guess. Chief of Police Adrian Bogo had an overwhelming urge to go over to her. He'd had this feeling as soon as he saw her on that stage, as the fundraiser was about to begin. She stood there by the mayor's side, smiling and shaking hands with some mammal who was in some way important. He really couldn't care less. All of his focus was on her. Something about this female intrigued him. They had spoken once this evening, although only briefly, exchanging generic pleasantries and handshakes. She had been so outgoing on the start of this fundraiser. The event has reached its zenith. Guests spoke, ate, danced, and mingled with one another. Why was she alone? The buffalo swirled the wine in his glass that he had been currently nursing before drowning it all at once, taking a breath as the liquor burned the back of his throat. After leaving his glass and a 20 on the counter, he marched up to her table. Assistant Mayor Taria Grazer looked up from her Chardonnay to see the Chief of Police standing in front of her. Behind her spectacles, his sienna eyes clashed with her soulful green ones.
Mind if I join you?
He asked out of the blue. For an unknown reason, the deep rumble of his voice made her chest flutter.
Sure.
She managed to reply, having been taken by surprise with his sudden appearance. He nodded once, closing his eyes briefly before taking his seat. She offered him a smile.
So, to what do I owe this impromptu visit, Chief Bogo?
Nothing special, ma'am.
He answered.
I was wondering what you were doing here, sitting all by yourself.
I just needed some time to myself, I guess.
She shrugged.
This may not be a place for a bit of solitude, but no one seems to notice me. Other than you, apparently.
Adrian hummed in thought.
I'm sorry, I seem to be disturbing you.
Taria reassured him.
It's fine. You don't look like bad company.
A short laugh escaped him.
As opposed to everyone else in this room.
I don't know about them. I don't have the drive to talk to any of them, nor do I have the interest to do so.
Oh, how social of you.
He drawled, in a way that he meant no offense. She thanked him despite of that, and then she turned her attention away from him to glance at the other event-goers. She looked as if she was contemplating something.
What are you really doing here, Miss Grazer?
Her head turned once more, back to him. She sighed, adjusting her glasses with a hoofed finger.
I'm exhausted,
she admitted.
3 months into my employment and I don't think I have much energy left for these vibrant parties.
Bogo could only nod in understanding. He, of all mammals, knew her dilemma quite well. The pressures of any job concerning politics can affect any mammal, and Taria was no exception.
Of course you have day offs, don't you?
He inquired.
Yes, but there's still so much to take care of. Who could afford to take a break?
Sadly, Bogo found her statement to be true. Even after a year had passed since that whole fiasco with the Night Howlers, the damages were still felt to this day. It fell upon the shoulders of the newly elected leaders. The exhaustion shows. Bogo saw just how much the pressure was getting to her. Upon closer inspection, he noticed the dark circles under her eyes. They were faint, apparently concealed by the makeup that she was wearing. She is young, not by much compared to him, in fact. At 35 years of age, to his knowledge, those bags under her eyes does not suit a female as beautiful as her. And again, with a dress as gorgeous as the one she's currently wearing, it did not match her state of melancholic fatigue. The red color was too vibrant, too happy. It did not match her mood. He decided to fix that, if only to try.
I know what that's like.
He admitted, offering a smile as he did so. She returned his gesture, lips stretching ever so slightly into a smile. It was weak, but it was something.
Do you?
She asked back.
Yes.
He nodded.
As chief of police, I see everything that happens in this city. Crimes big or small, they all lead to amounts of paperwork. Little to no sleep and barely enough time to myself.
Your wife must be a very patient woman.
She commented.
No.
He shook his head.
No, wife. My line of work does not allow such distractions.
Something flashed in her eyes as he said that, but it was gone before he could even find out what it was.
Welcome to the club.
Her joke fell flat.
You never married?
He asked.
Divorce.
Oh.
She took a swig at her Chardonnay.
It happened some time ago. A year or so. My marriage was already on the rocks back then. Matthew and I never had any children.
Bogo didn't know why she was suddenly telling him this. He didn't even know why he was listening. It didn't feel awkward. He didn't feel the need to ask why she was doing it. All his instincts told him to just listen.
We fought. I don't know who yelled first. I simply could not remember. I said some things that I have been holding back. He said some things that I've heard more than once.
She looked down at her glass.
I remembered becoming so exhausted after that fight.
Her eyes darted back up, focusing on him.
Have you ever felt anything like that before?
What do you mean?
He was taken aback by her sudden question.
Have you ever held something back for so long that right after you finally release it, everything just crumbles away, and the only thing you want to do after that is to just sleep?
Somewhat,
he answered. Though in a very different situation, when one of my subordinates does something to endanger themselves, their fellow officers, or God forbid, the credibility of the precinct, I don't hold back. I'll yell at them, from the top of my lungs until I'm hoarse.
And after that?
Best case scenario, I just assign them to parking duty for a month. Worst case scenario, it's either suspension or termination. It depends on how painful the headaches they cause me. From out of the blue came this alluring sound. For the first time this evening, Bogo heard Taria laughed. Like tiny little bell chimes, her short chortles were so genuine, so pure. It was a beautiful sound. Why couldn't she laugh more?
Thanks for that.
She giggled as she adjusted her glasses.
It's nice to know my pain could be another mammal's remedy.
He drawled sarcastically, though he didn't make an effort, and in hiding another smile from her. She laughed once more, although this time she made the effort of hiding her lips behind a dainty hand. The band was in full swing, playing a rather slow romantic tune as the other guests danced to it. Bogo allowed himself to muse that it was quite a lovely evening, far too lovely for anyone to just be sitting here and letting it pass by. Suddenly, he stood up. It might have been the wine, or it might have been the influence of the band's music. He really couldn't tell. He offered his hand to her.
Would you care for a dance, Miss Grazer?
A tinge of red flashed upon her cheeks. She looked up at the buffalo. Multiple waves of emotion shot through her. Before she could even stop herself, her mouth moved, controlled by her instincts.
I'd love to.
Her common sense brought her back. Instantly, she made to correct herself.
But I don't know how.
She followed, which wasn't really a lie. She couldn't dance if her life depended on it.
Follow my lead then?
He whispered. She could only manage a nod before he led her to the dance floor. The other dancers paid them no mind, as they themselves were busy dancing with their partners. Suddenly, both of his hands were on her waist. She took a sharp breath and froze briefly before shifting her own hands and perching them on his chest. His straightforwardness surprised her, but she didn't feel alarmed. Their dance started slow, swaying languidly to the music, their feet shifting from side to side. Minutes into the dance, Taria eventually let herself relax. This wasn't so bad. Obviously not what she was expecting. Tilting her head to look up at the buffalo, she spotted him, looking straight at her. Suddenly she was tense again. She made a misstep and her hoof trampled over his. He winced. She blushed.
Sorry.
It's fine.
He assured her.
It really didn't hurt.
You sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
His hands shifted higher on her waist.
Relax, Miss Grazer.
Taria nodded as a response. She knew what he meant, yet she couldn't bring herself to do so. Not with him holding her like this. Not now with her body flushed against his own. She needed to pull herself together. As she willed herself to breathe, her body began to grow accustomed to Bogo's swaying form, and as well as the soft yet firm feeling of his hands around her waist. Shifting her eyes up, she looked at him through the strands of her eyelashes. He was looking elsewhere, seemingly oblivious to Taria's gaze. Bogo suddenly felt the need to look down, his eyes immediately meeting with hers. The tense feeling was gone. Something in those eyes of hers made him clutch her closer to him. Surprisingly, she pressed herself even more to his chest, and not even once leaving his tense sienna eyes. And as the band played on and the other guests switched dance partners, the two bovines refused to let each other go. Turning down every mammal that tries to cut in, they simply didn't want to dance with anyone else. The party progressed. The band changed songs. Both Bogo and Taria danced the night away, with even less and less fumbling than before, moving in, completely in control of their feet, swaying oh so slowly to the songs. The sixth song of the night ended. The partygoers turned, clapped and cheered for the band. Taria, whose arms now wrapped around Bogo's neck, leaned up towards his ear.
Let's get out of here.
She whispered. A shiver ran down Bogo's spine as her breath cascaded over his earlobe. She craned his neck to look at her.
Come on.
She mouthed, lips moving in a way that made him hot under his tux. The buffalo nodded once. Taria's arm slid down his chest. Reluctantly, Bogo released her from his arms.
Parking lot, 5 minutes.
She said before walking off. He spotted her immediately, standing by the only police cruiser in the parking lot. Right as he approached her, she lunged, meeting him in a desperate kiss, to which he readily returned. A ravenous heat came to life within her, spreading like a wildfire. She clung to his tux. He groaned against her lips. She pressed her thigh against his hip. He broke away and made a move to open the driver's seat. Clear to what it meant, she yanked the passenger side door in her haste and took a seat. The drive going from the city's multipurpose hall to Taria's house had been excruciatingly long. Once they arrived, Bogo barely even made it to the living room before Taria jumped him. Mouths met, tongues danced, clothes were taken off and thrown in every direction. Bogo struggled to breathe. Everything felt hot. With a beastly grunt, he lifted Taria off her feet and carried her to their bedroom. She landed on her bed with a soft bounce, the mattress creaking against her weight. Bogo was upon her before she even had time to breathe. Flashes of white and blue dotted her vision as the buffalo's mouth latched onto her neck. Rough hooves grasped her breasts. Bogo's head traversed lower, closer to her sensitive mounds. When Bogo's lips encased one of her nipples, she screamed. A deep purr rumbled within the buffalo's chest. Suddenly, Taria felt herself moving. Bogo grabbed her by the waist and rolled her onto her stomach. Then, with a strength that surprised Taria, he pulled her up, not all the way, but just enough to raise her rump in the air. What followed after was the most erotic foreplay Taria had ever experienced. Matthew had never touched her like that before. The orgasm shot through her instantly, which only prompted Bogo to drive his tongue deeper into her quivering entrance. Bogo moved away from her raised rump, giving her a much-needed time to rest. Short it was, however. Bogo returned to her right after putting on a condom he had plucked from his wallet. He poked and prodded for a few seconds before he glided inside of her with ease. With a gasp, he felt her tighten around him with a vice-like grip as he gyrated his hips. With both of his hands, he raised the upper part of her body so her back touched his front. The motion did nothing to slow his thrusts, only it made for a closer, more intimate copulation. Moments later, Taria hit her second climax. She would have screamed if not for Bogo's mouth muffling hers with a heated kiss. With a final thrust, Bogo went off like a rocket, grunting against his lover's lips. Taria awoke right before her alarm clock was able to do so. The absence of a certain Cape buffalo was the first thing that came to her senses, not the pungent odor of sex or the slight ache in her loins. She sighed. A one-night stand would be for the best. After all, issues regarding internal affairs is more than enough reason for this to never continue. Though that wasn't the case, however, because as Taria was about to rise from her bed to prepare for work, she spotted the unassuming piece of paper on her nightstand. "Still got work today," it read. Below it was a series of numbers. A phone number. Bogo's phone number. She found herself smiling, though she didn't know why. "Have a great day at work, love. This will be our little secret." And cut there. Thank you guys for watching and reading. I don't know what you guys did. Reaching the very end of this video. A little tidbit here. This is actually chapter 2. I did not have the heart to read chapter 1 and record it because it was very cringy. Chapter 1 of this story is very, very cringy. I have used some words there that I'm not quite proud of. So yeah, if you guys want me to do chapter 1 or 3, it kind of depends on how you guys received this video. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Follow me on Twitter, chat with me on Discord, support me on Ko-fi. My Ko-fi link is in the description below, and don't forget to join the official Discord server for my channel. This has been your fellow degenerates, Cook Boss 88, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. See ya!